I am joined by Paul from Evercase. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, great, Carlos. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to talk to you about Evercase. This is a very cool product. Why don't you tell us here at the Spoon about Evercase?
Yeah, right. Look, Evercase is a revolution in how we store food that reduces waste and improves quality. It keeps food way below zero without any ice forming. So, normally after freezing food, it's rock hard, right? Full of ice.
Mm.
With Evercase, you can reach those freezing temperatures, but the food remains fresh and supple. So, the so what of this is that ice formation damages food.
Mm.
When ice forms, the water expands and it busts the cells. You know that puddle of ooze that you get when you thaw a steak or a piece of
Yeah.
seafood? That's goodness leaching out of the product. Plus, there's like tons of food that we can't freeze without them turning into mush,
Hmm.
like berries and leafy greens and so on. We've all got that stuff in the back of the fridge that lies there until it dies a unnatural death. So we throw it out, and it adds to the huge food waste problem that we have globally. 30% of the food we grow gets thrown out. With Evercase, you get none of that. Just fresh food for weeks. We can at last, store food the way it was meant to be stored, fresh and eaten fresh. So, the thing that astonishes me is that freezing was invented 160 years ago. It's
Yeah.
160 years old, right? It's done a great job, but it has all these weaknesses. So at Evercase, we think it's kind of time to leave the ice age, to use a kind of a corny
Oh,
line,
nice.
right, and improve the quality and lack of wastefulness of the food, and eat it the way it was meant to be, fresh and nutritious.
And you're doing this with magnets.
Indeed, yeah. So the device itself sits inside freezers. It doesn't do any cooling itself, so it sort of intervenes between the food and the freezer, and it uses magnetic and electric fields to be able to do that. So it
Okay.
intervenes between those two forms.
And you can put this anywhere then? I don't know if we've talked about that before, but
Right.
where
Yeah.
where where you can place it.
Yeah, it can go into any freezer, essentially. So any
Okay.
freezer will contain this, and as I said, it doesn't do any freezing itself. It intervenes between the product and the freezer itself.
So this is a B2C product, right? Or are you also working with other like a B2B kind of market as well?
Yeah, we're looking B2B as well as B2C. So a lot of retailers love this idea, right? So suddenly
Hmm.
they're transformed from having things that are sort of only days of preservation to having weeks of preservation. They get all the same antimicrobial effect that they would get through freezing and storage effect they'd get through freezing. It's just that the product is supple and fresh and kind of yummy and nutritious
Yeah.
rather than rock hard. And as a consequence, you've got a consumer arrangement where people look at the food. It has all that great fresh characteristics, so that they tend to be more attracted to the food rather than sort of wanting to throw it out.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've thrown stuff out of my freezer, probably
Right.
just this week.
We're all
And
guilty of that, right? It's like,
we are.
I'm not sure about this. Whereas if it was consistently preserved the way it was when we purchased it, less likelihood that we're going to throw it out, and more likelihood that we'll use it for its original intention. And so quality, price, all these good things are maintained.
Yeah. And again, waste is a huge part of it,
Right.
maintaining waste. So what is this already rolled out to market?
Right. So it's essentially getting a lot of market traction with retailers.
Okay.
We are in the middle of a raise to be able to do more of that and to build boxes that are bespoke to clients that are asking for them. So very large retailers and also the sort of transport and storage market as well.
Yeah, I think this is a long time ago. In another lifetime, I was a dairy manager
Right.
at a grocery store. And I remember our freezer sections, again, talk about waste. Just so much mismanagement of like storage space and just, like you said, ice formation. So I think, yeah, it makes a lot of sense for on a bigger scale as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you think about it, as I said, freezing's done a great job of helping us get food around, but it's done a kind of a really poor job of keeping the food fresh and in a form
Yeah,
that we want to eat it, right?
yeah, yeah. So, what are you excited about then in the future for Evercase? Is there something that's like on the horizon right now that you can talk about?
Yeah, look, I think we're in the middle of discussions with very large retailers in Europe. We've got some major plans there with this European retailer that serves a very, very large market. And we're really hopeful that will then lead other retailers to sort of see the light and roll this out as well. We're already starting to get traction in the US and here in Australia, where I'm from as well, and parts of Asia. Now, every time you turn over a rock, right, every time you look at a piece of food, you sort of say, huh, that could be improved if it were fresh, not frozen, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
this is the extent of the marketplace that we're aiming at, and in addition to that, there's also a whole pile of biologicals that we have not yet sort of actively pursued, things around organ transport and blood transport, all
Oh,
of these
yeah,
things,
yeah.
right? All of these things could be improved by not having ice formation around them. At the moment, sort of, best form of transport is kind of a block of ice or, chipped ice in a polystyrene foam box, in a lot of parts of the world.
Yeah.
That's kind of like best of breed. We aim to change all of that. Other things as well, like, the flowers, the whole flower market globally. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but like I have, weirdly, but if you freeze a flower and then you pull it out of the freezer, you've got this beautiful crystalline structure for about 30 seconds and then it goes black and grey. So
Oh.
with Evercase, you'd be able to transport those flowers in a super cold state, but they'd never form ice, and so you'd get this beautiful fresh flower at the end.
It's like you're preserving time as well.
Right, it's like we're freezing time,
Freezing time.
just not
You
the
can use
food.
that. Use that as a quote.
Freezing
We
time, not
freeze
the food.
time. Yeah, I like that. And I also, when you just mentioned organ donor or an organ transplant, that's huge. I mean,
Right,
those
and
little boxes they carry this stuff in. It's
it's kind
yeah,
of like something out of the ark, right? It's like,
yeah.
it's like, yeah,
It's old
you sort of,
school.
yeah, it's old school, and it's funny. I think the reason we've sort of persisted with these old school methods is that we kind of think that you can't disrupt freezing, right? It's a natural process. Well, it turns out you can,
Yeah.
and that's what we're doing with Evercase.
Well, I'm excited to get my hands on one for one thing because I am tired of throwing things out and having the weird things that we talked about.
Totally.
So people can check it out at evercase.cool. I like your website name. And Paul, thanks so much for talking about Evercase here on the Spoon.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks a lot, Carlos.